Hey there, it's Crystal. I am the founder of HeartStories, and I am so thrilled today to welcome you to the episode 6 of Sisters on Your Sofa. Today I have Shasta Nelson with me. Welcome, Shasta.
Hi.
I'm so glad to have you here. Shasta is a dear friend of mine, and she is a friendship expert. She's just a leading voice on loneliness and creating healthy friendships. She speaks across the country and she teaches all of this incredible wisdom that she's learned over the years doing research and working with people on developing deeper friendships that bring health and happiness into their lives. So I am, of course, because of the work I do through HeartStories, just so thrilled to have Shasta with us. And, the backstory is when I first started HeartStories, I mean, we're talking like, it was like 2014, 2013, 2014. I was working with a coach who said, I have a friend you should meet, and we connected for a phone call. And I just remember, I had come from I wasn't an entrepreneur before. I was in sales my whole life. And I just remember my jaw on the floor thinking, this woman is amazing. She is so brilliant and smart and kind and warm. And no, it was just I remember exactly.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you. But it was
I wish I were on your actual sofa today. That would be way more fun.
Oh my gosh, it would be. Yes, I wish that too. So Shasta and I just over the years have become friends. She spoke at my very first event in 2014. We would have become friends in 2013 then. And then have just stayed friends over the years. She's done one virtual girls' night out, like been on the screen while we were all in the room. And then I've wanted her to do another one since then, but we finally are going to get to do that at the Gratitude and Grace Girls Night Out coming up. But until then, I just wanted us to get a chance to chat with Shasta, because the Girls Night is focused on Enneagram and how that translates into relationships, friendships and relationships, and our own superpowers and how all of that works. But there's so much more to Shasta than the Enneagram research and connecting that to relationships. So I just wanted to bring Shasta on the sofa so that we can learn more from you and just hear more about your story in advance of Girls Night. So you lead us out. I want to hear how you became so interested in friendships, like when you started studying friendships, what makes it work, what we can do to make them better, and how much effect they have on our lives, all of the things. So
that's a big question, Crystal.
I know, we could be here all day, and I'm in no hurry.
It's one of those things where when you look back, you can sit there and say, this has been with me all along. My first career, I was trained as a pastor.
Yes.
And certainly I look back at that and I'm like, what drew me into that was the idea of, like, in my life, that was where community happened. That was where we knew each other, where we felt supported, where we knew that we had a kind of a support net underneath us if we needed it. And I believe to this day that our best emotional growth, spiritual growth happens in relationship with each other.
Yes.
So truly I can look back and see that was definitely what took me into that space. And I loved like small group leadership training and marriage counseling and like all the relationship stuff that often comes with church. And then it really was 2008, I really started, maybe even a little bit before then, I was doing some coaching. I was working more and helping lead and coach and consult with different people. And I kept finding myself asking them, like, so who's supporting you right now? Who's your circle of friends? And I was only doing that because the research just showed how much our goals came down to, whether we succeeded or not, came down to our support system. I mean, whether it was like you wanted to lose weight, whether you were trying to make your marriage work, whether you were wanted to go get a bigger job or go be an artist and take a risk. I mean, it was like always, I was working with a woman who was trying to decide if she was willing to leave her corporate job to go pursue a dream. And it's really important. Like, what are your friends saying? Do you have friends who are like acting like that's the worst thing in the world? Or are your friends like all out there doing the art stuff themselves? Like, that shapes I mean, we all want to ultimately decide for ourselves, but we are influenced by what the people around us is saying is normal or what they encourage us to do. And so really it was a pragmatic thing where I just kind of kept asking, who are your friends? Who's supporting you? What are they saying? And I've got to tell you, Crystal, like, I was working with amazing women And it doesn't surprise me now, but at the time, it really caught me off guard how these high-powered, successful women who were hiring a coach, like that says a high caliber of a person, and to a person, they just were like, yeah, I don't really talk about this kind of stuff with my friends, or, well, nobody knows that I'm in the middle of a divorce right now, or like, well, I just moved to this new area and I've kind of lost touch with my close friends. And I don't really have close friends here. I mean, it was kind of just a reoccurring theme. And so really what zeroed me in on friendship was looking for resources for these women and realizing that they're just the dearth of resources out there, and how everybody was so focused on romantic relationships and parent-child relationships. And those were like the only books out there. It felt like there was just nothing on friendship. And I was like, friendships are the vast majority of relationships in our lives. I mean, we're only going to have like 6 kids at the most.
Right. Golly, I hope not.
I mean, I was like, most 1 or 2, and we're only going to have 1 spouse at a time, you know? And so those are kind of a small quantity of relationships. And I was like, all the other relationships, and especially for women, and I'll stop you on this note, but especially for women, historically, and this is changing a little bit, but really the research doesn't bear out that being married and having kids is better for our health and our happiness. But our friendships do. And so being married and having kids, actually, we tend to earn less. We tend to be more depressed. We tend to be more tired. We tend to have more health issues. And I think we're changing it because the way we do marriage and the way we parent hopefully is changing. But by and large, those relationships have not been the places that are going to make you happiest and make you healthiest. So I was kind of back then just being like, wow, this is the majority of our relationships. This is the ones who actually help our health and happiness the most. I mean, all healthy relationships do, but certainly those are places where we have less stress, hopefully. And I don't know, it just kind of became this place for me where I was like, why is nobody talking about this? And then I was like, okay, I'll start talking about it. And that's just kind of what took me into that space.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I love the story because I think that when we talk about quarantine, like the all good things seem to be birthed of need. And there's this need for people to pay attention to the friendships, especially, I don't think I've ever even heard you say, and forgive me if I haven't, this is the first time it like got through to my brain, but about the marriage and family relationship not meeting the same need, not necessarily showing clinically that is going to bring health and happiness the way that friendship does. It's amazing. It's true.
I mean, I know they call it the marriage balance inequality. For men, marriage has tended to help them live longer and be there for them. But for women, it hasn't always been that way because it's often meant a lot more work, a lot more obligation, a lot more sacrifice. And, I don't have to preach to everyone but
everyone knows, yes.
Hopefully the way we're doing relationships is shifting. But we have, and especially women, so much of our identity has often come from who we're married to and who we're the mother of. And those aren't necessarily always as rewarding and as meaningful as what our friends can see us as and interact with us and pull out different sides of us and stuff.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. I know that to be true in my own life. I find so much value and worth in being a mom and a wife. And I know that how important it is for me to have something else too, that and my friends do obviously see that more than my husband and my kids, see that side of me. So that's so good. I can resonate with that. Okay. So tell me, I have a couple of questions for you that are just based on things of yours that I've read. So books and I think I forgot to say that earlier. Shasta's written 3 books. And I would love for you to tell us the names of the books and the subtitles of them. Let's start with the first one. You talk about the clear path for the development of friendships. It's what you talked about in 2014 at our Girls Night Out. So we start as acquaintance. I'm not going to try to go, but we start as acquaintances and then we become best friends. And how do we get there? What's the in-between for that look like? And what book did this come from?
Yeah, so that comes from Friendships Don't Just Happen. And that book is a really good book for women who are wanting to make new friends, who want to kind of understand what friendship looks like and how to kind of start friendships and have healthy expectations around them. The second book is Frientimacy, How to Deepen Friendships for Lifelong Health and Happiness. And that's for women who many of us, when I wrote the first book, I was just kind of speaking to the fact that so many of us are lonely and and yet we don't feel like we have the friends we need. But I noticed that as I was really talking about that and and unpacking that more, I realized that for many of us, our loneliness isn't that we don't know enough people. Our loneliness is that we aren't deep enough with a few people.
Yes.
And that we actually know enough people, and we have a lot of friends, and we can actually name a bunch of people, and we have an active social life, and we're taking care of a lot of people, and we're interacting with people all day long at work. And I noticed that for a lot of us, it's not from isolation that we're dying. It's from lack of intimacy that we're dying. So the second book is for those who feel like you actually have a lot of relationships in your life. And it's not that you need to go meet new people. It's that you need to make your current friendships more meaningful. And that's the book for that. And I can kind of,
and it's called, tell me the second book again.
Frientimacy. So like friendship, intimacy. And I had to coin a new word, Crystal, because you'll know that as I was on campaign out there saying, we need more intimacy in our lives than just romance. And so I just kept saying, we need more intimacy. We need more intimacy. And it was like, everybody's brains just kept going to sex, like, what are you talking about? We need more sex with our friends. And, I was just like, we've created such a synonymous association with intimacy and romance and sexuality.
Right.
And so for me, it was like, no, we need deep, meaningful, intimate friendships that are platonic with other people. And so we coined the word frientimacy to just kind of help remind us that what we're aiming for is intimacy. And that's not sexual, but it's where you feel truly. My definition of frientimacy is any relationship between any two people where they both feel seen in a safe and satisfying way. So it's where we both feel known, we feel gotten, we feel seen. It needs to feel like we can rely on it. It needs to feel safe. It needs to have history. It needs to feel like we can kind of, that it's trustworthy, and it needs to feel satisfying, which is to feel more good than bad. Like none of us just want to be seen in relationships all the time when then feel judged for it or feel unaccepted or not enough. So it's really has to have all three of those things. And that's what we crave in all of our relationships, marriage included.
And so those three things are?
Yeah, good segue. So the definition of friendship is any relationship where we both feel seen in a safe and satisfying way. And if you take those three S's, each of them leads to one of the three requirements of relationship. And these three requirements come from the fact that when I was doing my research for the second book, Frientimacy, I was looking at all the different studies that social scientists are studying. And over here, they're studying what makes us trust one person over another person. Like, what is trust? And over here, they're studying what makes for a healthy team. And over here, they're studying why are some marriages healthier than others. And over here, they're studying how do you determine who becomes your best friend. And so all these different studies that I love and I read and I'm so excited by, I was like, what are they all at the core saying? Because they're all kind of studying different things, and yet they're all measuring what is a healthy relationship. And so I started breaking down every single and kind of grouping together, like in this study, they're saying these 5 words. In this study, they're looking at this. And in this study, they're calling it this. And I came up with, like, across all these studies, there's 3 non-negotiables. There's 3 requirements. They were in every single study using different words, but these are the 3 things that are being measured. And so this is like what I would call the 3 requirements of every healthy relationship. And the first is positivity. That's what makes our relationship satisfying. And positivity means that we actually have to walk away feeling good. At the end of the day, it just means having positive emotions, truthfully. So it doesn't mean being positive.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of clarification.
Yeah, it just means that we both enjoyed ourselves. We both felt accepted. We both laughed. We both had a good time. We both walked away saying, that was fun. I want to do it again.
Yes.
So it will look different for different friendships, but at the end of the day, none of us want to be in a relationship that feels more negative, more heavy, and more draining than it does rewarding, energizing, and positive. So that's a core requirement of all healthy relationships, and that should make sense. And you do that one so well.
Oh, thank you. It's maybe the only one I do well.
No. No. And I'll just say on that one, the science is showing that we need to have 5 positive emotions for every negative emotion in a relationship to keep it healthy, which I think is helpful. It reminds us that there are going to be negative elements and stressors and things that we do to annoy each other. But at the end of the day, we just need to have more positive feelings than negative feelings.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that before, like the deposits in the bank account, right? That you have to have five deposits in before you can take one out, or at least fill it back up. That's good.
Yeah. So even when we're in stress, or even when we're in pain, even when we're in a pandemic,
right?
Yeah, I mean, there's things that are going to make it so that we're not all walking. This doesn't mean we need to be positive. We just need to only talk about the good. And I'm not into that at all. It means that we need to still not just walk around bringing everybody down, right? So it's like still just, we can talk about hard things, and then we do it with empathy, and we validate, and we support, and we encourage. Those are all acts of positivity. So
yeah,
that hopefully makes sense. I
does.
teach a triangle, and that's the foundation, because at the end of the day, if we don't have fun, or we don't enjoy, or we're not at least interested in the other person, there's no way a friendship's really going to get off the ground. So it has to have more positive than not. The second requirement of all healthy relationships is consistency. And consistency is where we build, this is repetition. It's the time we kind of like the logging of the hours, if you will. It's the building of our history, our memory bank. It's kind of the content, the structure of our relationship. It's where we interact. And it's how often we interact. And every relationship has a pattern. You know, some relationships, like it'd be weird if you didn't talk to her every day, and other relationships it'd be weird if you didn't talk every month. And some relationships you go for walks, and other relationships it's over texting. And you know, every relationship has a pattern, and that pattern is kind of our consistency. And that is also where a relationship ends up feeling safe. And that's where we feel like we can rely on each other, because we can only like trust really is our ability to predict how you'll respond based on how you have responded. So that becomes a pattern that allows us to feel like I can trust Crystal to do this because she's always done this, or I know that she must just be having a bad day because this isn't like Crystal. And, you know, and so that's where we can start having that trust in each other.
That's so good.
Yeah, and I will just say
about that. It's so good, because I think that probably works both ways, what I can trust you to do or not do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we end up building kind of that history. And it's interesting, there was a study that came out a year and a half ago that actually showed, so I teach them on a triangle. And so all relationships start on the bottom of the triangle with low consistency, and the third requirement, low vulnerability, we'll talk about in a second. And as we practice our consistency and our vulnerability, so the more we spend time together, the more we share and get to know each other, the more history we build, the more we know of each other's past. And so these two should go up the triangle together. And at the top of the triangle is Frientimacy. And most of our relationships will be all somewhere along the triangle, and only a few of them will be up at the very top. And I just wanted to point out that one of the studies that was done out of University of Kansas was that they did a study kind of tracking friendships, and it took about 200 hours before somebody felt like they were best friends with somebody.
Wow.
And so when you think about when we were kids, getting those 200 hours in, you know, if you're playing for 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon, or you're at summer camp for a week, or you're seeing each other every day at school, it's a little bit easier to log those hours. If you're only getting together for girls' night once a month and you're only together for 2 hours, it's going to take a while to log the 200 hours. But those are the 200 hours would be how long it takes you to get up to the top of the triangle. So the vast majority of people will be down in the bottom third or bottom half, with halfway consistency and halfway, you know, vulnerability. And so just kind of an idea in our brains to just realize there's levels of relationship, and you don't just meet a best friend and like stick them at the top of the triangle.
Right.
We often just are like, I'm lonely, I need a best friend. And we like think we're auditioning people, and we're like, Crystal, I choose you. And now we're best friends. And it takes time. Like we just, no matter how much you both want it, you have to like take the time to get to know each other. And that's the third requirement, which is vulnerability, which is where we share our stories, where we feel like they know us, they get us, they know our different personalities and our history a little bit, and our dreams and what we're doing. And so obviously all of us need a few relationships at the top where we feel completely seen and completely in a safe way, and it's completely satisfying. But most relationships will be down along anywhere else along the triangle. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I love it.
I feel like I went into teacher mode there. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I want more. I could ask you all the questions and we could stay on that all day. I just feel for me personally, and we've talked about this, when we get to the Enneagram questions, I am an Enneagram 7 who's lived my life having fun and looking for the next thrill ride, and let's go do something fun together. And so the whole like having any kind of structure and plan of how I'm going to advance friendships and make sure everyone feels safe and seen and consistent. And I'm like, oh, let's just go. And I'm the one who's, we're going to be best friends. So no, it's been fascinating just as an adult, but also as an adult knowing Shasta, to learn more about how relationships work. Both friendship, but I think that obviously it applies to all relationships. I think even as a parent, the more like hours that you log, and I don't think it's just the hours that you're like getting your kid up and out the door in the morning, but like the hours that you're looking at them in the eyes and talking with them. And I'm getting a lot more of those these days in this quarantine phase. But I can see the fruit of that too. Like I feel like as with my teen boys, we're moving up the triangle a little bit. So beautiful. I appreciate it. I think it's amazing. Beautiful. No teacher mode discount. Okay, so that is that. Let's talk about, so in all of this, The Business of Friendship, your final book, or most recent, certainly not final, most recent book was birthed. So tell me how, I mean, I know, but explain to us how The Business of Friendship came about. What it's about and how it came about, I guess.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. So the next book, The Business of Friendship, Making the Most of the Relationships Where We Spend Most of Our Time, comes out in August. And I know it's been so weird to be like, I'm in the phase right now where we're gathering endorsements and finalizing the book cover. And it's been so weird to be like in a pandemic and like still having to do these like tasks where you're like, is this really going to happen?
Yeah,
like, is this really going to, but yeah, it's coming out and I'm really excited about it. And it was kind of birthed out of a place for me, maybe a year and a half ago or so, 2 years ago, maybe at the beginning, where I was just really realizing like my heart breaks for all of the loneliness in this world.
Yes.
And let me just define the loneliness. It's like I kind of mentioned earlier that the loneliness doesn't mean you're isolated. It doesn't mean you're a hermit. It means you have a hunger to be known more.
Yes.
You want to be more connected in a more intimate, meaningful way. And most of us are reporting loneliness, which means we just have a greater capacity to be more connected. It doesn't mean it's a negative thing, that there's something wrong with us. Loneliness is our body giving us information the same way it sends us hunger. So we just as we don't need to feel ashamed that we feel hunger, we don't need to feel ashamed that we feel lonely. It only becomes damaging, like for hunger, if you actually don't get food and you don't have access to food, or you're not eating food, that's where it becomes a big problem. Similarly with loneliness, just feeling loneliness is your body saying, hey, I want some more connection. It's if we ignore it, we deny it, we squash it down, we try to pretend it's not there. We call it boredom, we call it hunger, we call it something else, and don't actually take care of it, is where it becomes really damaging to our bodies and to all of us. And really, I was in this place of just like, I've been doing hundreds of YouTube videos. I've written 2 books. I speak around the country talking about loneliness, and really realizing that if you do one more girls' night a month, it's not going to solve your loneliness. If I can convince you to like do one more phone call, it's not like, this is a bigger issue, and it's a systemic issue. It's not a personal issue. Like when you have numbers this big, it means our culture, where the way we're doing life is not working.
Right.
When you have numbers that are 60% of us are saying that we are lonely, then we have a bigger problem than just needing to teach all of us some more skills. That means the way we're setting up our structures and our systems is leading to loneliness. And so I really felt this hunger to go and say, how can we change the way we do religion to take care of this? How can we change the way we're doing technology? How can we do this differently in the education system? How can we do this different in healthcare? And I just decided I can't change all of them at once, but I was like, let's start with where we spend the most time. And so I'm starting with the workplaces, and are like, let's talk about how we can do work differently to make sure that we're helping us all feel seen in a safe and satisfying way at work, in a way that benefits the organization, in a way that feeds me, the employee, and in a way that actually helps us address the loneliness issue in a global way. So
it's so good.
That's where I'm coming from.
Oh, and I love it. I got a chance to read, like, what was it, the first 2 chapters?
Oh yeah, you did. You were one of my first readers of the first 2 chapters.
And it
was kind of scary to send you.
I know. I felt so special, and just like, it meant, not felt so special like about me, but like it meant so much to me that you would trust me enough to send it to me.
Oh, absolutely. And it was the best decision I ever made, because you were so positive back, and just I was like, like it is okay.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, I mean, I just remember reading it and like, oh my gosh, this is groundbreaking. Like, I just got to touch the Holy Scrolls.
You're so sweet.
Seriously.
I am very excited about it.
And it's just like the idea, again, like going back to the fact that when you first started talking about friendship, nobody was talking about it. I think the reason that I ended up getting to read that is because I feel so strongly also that friendships need to be developed at work, and there needs to be another place and a way to meet up outside of work. And so you and I were talking about it one day, and you're like, hey, I happen to be writing a whole book about that. What was it? Oh, but so I just believed in the need already and the possibility there. And you've like have shoveled in all of the research, and I think what's fascinating is the benefit to the business and the bottom line, that that it doesn't stop with like your employees are going to be happier, but that it stops with hard, fast evidence that you will make more money, that you will have more effective teams, that you will have more obviously happier teams, people who are happier to be at work, but that it does benefit the business, because at the end of the day, all business owners and bosses do have to worry about, we're all accountable for the bottom line. So if we can make our people happier while we make more money, oh my gosh, it's just a brilliant recipe.
You would think, you know what, one of the kind of surprising things to me, I guess, is that like Gallup organization, which is a huge, very credible firm for doing research on like engaged employees and going into companies and helping do assessments. They have been for 2 decades, like almost 20 years, been saying and asking the question. There's 12 questions that they ask an employee to gauge the engagement of an employee. And one of the questions is, I have a best friend at work. And so they have tested that with, I have close friends, I have a friend, I have good friends, and like all the different ways of phrasing it. And at the end of the day, they said, we would change that question, because they've had so much pushback from companies who are like, yeah, we're not sure we want people to have a best friend at work. That's not just, and so they've like, we would change that question, except for one stubborn fact. Those who have a best friend at work are your best employees. Like they have done the studies all these different ways for 2 decades, and continue to conclude over and over and over that if your employee has a best friend at work, they are 7 times more engaged. And I just always think, and I'm like, just think if you just had somebody twice engaged, like that would be amazing. I mean, we're talking 7 times more engaged, which you named a good list. It's like, it translates to fewer sick days, because we're less likely to call in if we feel like we're leaving our team or our best friend stranded, or we want to help them on this thing, where we have fewer workplace accidents, which is crazy. We have better customer service. We feel safer brainstorming and innovating and being creative, because we aren't scared to name our ideas. And so, I mean, when you actually translate the list of things that an employer gets if their employees have a best friend, what's crazy to me is how that research has been out there for 20 years. And yet workplaces, by and large, are still not doing much to really help foster their friendships. I did a big survey last spring in preparation as I was writing the book, and just kind of surveying how many of you feel like your company helps encourage or support your friendships. I mean, it's dismal. It is so dismal. I don't have the number off the top of my head right now, but it was the vast majority of us don't feel like our companies are even doing anything. Many of us don't even feel like they would want us to have a best friend, or like even give us permission to want to that. So we feel like we have to kind of hide it, and so you think this is kind of crazy. Of all the other things that companies are told matter, they are almost ignoring this one by and large. And yet we know how important it is for people to feel like they belong. It helps with retention. It helps with everything. So it's I'm kind of surprised at how important it is to organizations, and yet how few organizations are taking that seriously and actually teaching to that point, training to that point, helping say to their employees, we want this for you, helping create the opportunities that foster that. That's really important.
It's amazing. I mean, again, just reading the first little bit of what you wrote, I was like, oh my gosh. So tell me what, I didn't get to read the whole book, so I'm looking forward to August. Tell me what you're going to do about that. What is Shasta Nelson doing about that in addition to the book? And then what can workplaces do? Like, what do you recommend? So obviously we have this big problem that has a brilliant answer. How do we connect the two?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is even just training and talking about it more in our workplaces. Like even just talking about, we are okay with you having friends. We want you to have friends. The same way we'd say we want you to be healthy, or the same way we'd say we want your mental health to be strong. Like we want your relational health to be good. Like we want that for you. That's amazing how just naming that and saying that. I have a friend who works in an organization where they routinely get up, and the leaders get up and talk about their best friends and how much their friends matter to them at work, and and like do big campaigns, send us pictures of you with your friends from work, and we'll post them in our newsletter. I mean, that's kind of rare though, And so, I mean, what can a company what can they do just even say, we want this for you? And then I think training and actually talking about what are healthy expectations, the same way, because I think the scary thing is, I think everybody, if we could just be like, we want you to have friends, but we just don't want the drama that we're also afraid of with friends.
Yes, I was going to say, what's the fear, but I didn't want to send us off topic. So they're afraid of drama.
Yeah, they're afraid of favoritism. That was the number one fear. We're afraid of gossip. We're afraid of like confiding in somebody and having it used against us. We're afraid of having to reprimand or fire a friend. But one of the things I always say is the irony is you can have a workplace with no friends, and it doesn't save you from all of that drama. Like you're still going to have people accuse your boss of favoritism. You're still going to feel overlooked. You're still going to feel like your strengths weren't taken into consideration. You're still going to have to fire people that you like, and you don't want a workplace where you don't like anybody and where it's like not easier to fire people you don't like.
Just fire everybody.
I mean, like these are issues you're going to have whether you're have friends or not. I actually would argue that the more you train for healthy friendships, the less of that drama that you're so afraid of will actually happen. And if you can actually train for like what is healthy, like going back to the triangle. So I teach the triangle in there. What are we talking when we talk about a best friend at work, and what's appropriate, and what are we confiding in or not confiding in, and being able to teach like, so what level of relationship, and being able to teach. And I'm coming out, I came up with 5 levels that I'm really excited about, just to kind of help highlight healthy expectations of what kind of a friendship you might have at work. You know, a lot of us will, if we go into a workplace every day, we'll feel closer to some of the people we work with than we will to some of our long-term best friends because we're seeing them on the daily.
Yes.
And we confuse that and thinking they're our best friends and have expectations for them that are the top of the triangle. When really that relationship honestly is probably only about halfway up the triangle. And then what happens so often is you change jobs and then people get so hurt. Like, I thought we were best friends and we never even talked to each other. Well, all their consistency was built on just seeing each other at work. And as soon as you stopped working together, you had no consistency. So you really have to practice other ways of consistency if you want that relationship to make it and stuff. So when you actually understand what makes a relationship and what healthy expectations are and how to show up in a healthy way, I think you'll have less of the drama and more of the benefits.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And it's true. Like, I remember, I used to work right out of college. I worked at West Airlines. And one of the things that they did, as I was, we always had, you know, we were always making friends and having fun. But at headquarters, and I believe they still do this, on Fridays, they have a deck party, like up on the main deck. Like, everybody can come at happy hour. I think it's before work is over. Everybody gets to hang out and just like, they encourage the friendships. They encourage a little, and I think obviously with Southwest and culture, they've encouraged a little more casual level of friendships. But I mean, people love to work there.
That's a good example. And I was going to say, culture is nothing if not just collective relationships, right? So friendship is a relationship between two people. Culture is what our organization's relationships look like. And you have to have these same 3 requirements in a culture, which is it needs to feel fun and good. We need to feel loved. We need to feel accepted. We need to feel rewarded. That's the positivity. We need it to feel like we know what's coming. We know what's expected of us. We know the methods and the pattern of our relationship. We know what to expect in these meetings. We're not going to be treated like we expect that when we do this, we'll get that, like all that consistency. And then we've got to feel like they know us and they get us and they're taking the time to see us and our strengths and what we bring to the table and that we can see them. And so Southwest is a great example of a company that has practiced the 3 requirements on the triangle and helps encourage that. And people want to stay there and they have an amazing retention rate. So go figure. I mean, it's like, they're a great example of that.
Yeah, no, it's true. Makes me laugh that the triangle, that's how Southwest started, right? The Austin, San Antonio, Houston, or whatever, the Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. Anyway, okay, so that's so good. It's amazing. And it's obviously true. So I am so excited for you to go in and help other companies see that, like how important the relationships are, not only culture. I think corporations do spend a lot of time thinking about culture, but not thinking about those one-to-one, the other friendships within the culture that develop the culture.
I put together an assessment that I've been using with some teams where everybody on the team answers questions and it assesses the health of their relationship to their team, which is interesting based on the 3 requirements. And that's really fun because for a manager, you get to actually see our team score in positivity is an 81, our consistency is 67, and our vulnerability, and so you get a score in all of them. But then you also see where you have some individuals that might not be plugging in and feeling part of the team and feeling belonging. And so then as a group, being able to have conversations around what can we do as a team or as a department to actually brainstorm to raise whichever one is our lowest score, for example. And
that's so good.
There's a way to do those.
Will you consult with companies after you go in and do training? Will you consult one-offs to help build up one part?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, this is the thing is if we've got managers who who they want their team bonded. I mean, they do offsites. They know the value of having the team bond. I just don't think most of us have been taught and trained, like what exactly creates that bond. It's not like, it's not just going bowling together. And there's like, that helps because that's fun together. And so, I mean, it can be a part of it, but most of us are just trying to think of the activity. We actually don't understand what needs to be happening underneath that activity to make it work. But if you, like I always say to an audience, I always say, I guarantee you, if you practice these 3 things, you cannot not bond. I mean, these are the 3 things that every relationship has. Any relationship that does not feel good, it's because at least one of these 3 things is missing or in lack. So it gives you incredible information as 2 friends or as a team or as a culture, whatever level you're looking at, to be able to say, if we kind of focus on this one, it will make the biggest difference to us both feeling better.
Oh, that's good. I love it. I love that you're there to help teams be guided through that. Okay. So I'm going to make a little transition because I also think it builds part of your credibility in your story is the whole Enneagram that you've been studying Enneagram for 10 years, like a long time, way before Enneagram was cool. Shasta.
I know I used to not be talking about it because I was like, people will think I'm crazy.
No, but I love it. And I just love, because I believe in all of the different, my husband's a therapist and he's certified in some different personality things. And I think it's interesting, the more you can learn, even on all the different tests and everything, just like the one that you built for businesses and teams, that you can take all that information. But to me, that bolsters your credibility and your wisdom in the way that your brain is working to bring all of these ideas together, because you understand how personalities work and how each personality feels seen, safe, and what feels positive, because we know it feels different for all of us. So that's what we're focusing on for our girls' night on May the 7th, is talking about the Enneagram and celebrating the superpowers, what each of us bring to the table, but also what are the ways we can practice compassion for other people when we practice compassion for ourselves, when we're in quarantine and we have orange roots and we are not feeling like our best selves, and practice compassion for others who don't have our same superpowers, and sometimes we're judgmental. So I'm just thrilled about that. But talk to us a little bit about your perception, your love for the Enneagram.
Yeah, I did it. My husband and I picked up the book 10 years ago, and that was kind of our way in, and we were going away for our anniversary. Wow. And we spent the whole weekend just reading it and does that work and does that fit? And at first, of course, neither of us loved reading our own number, because it's kind of it can be kind of no, I don't do that. I don't like that,
I just have the positive part of that, not the negative.
Exactly. But then it's such a powerful personal growth tool. And to me, Enneagram is one of the most powerful personality growth things that is out there. All the other ones are interesting, and they're like, you're an extrovert, or you're an introvert, or you're this, or you're that, and which is great. The Enneagram, what I love about it is that it's this is my type, and there's a health kind of graph, if you will. Your type when it's under stress or in crisis or in disintegration acts like this. Your type when you're health average, you act like this, and your type when you're really healthy acts like this. And we can see the possibilities of really being our best version. So it's not an excuse to sit there and say, well, my type is just this way, so that's just how I am. It's no, that's my default mode, and that's the box I'm living in, and that's what I've identified as, and that's been my defense mechanism. And the goal isn't to change me. I'm not going to become you, and you're not going to become me, and I'm not going to change my number. But what is the biggest gift that comes by being the healthiest version of my number, where I'm not just responding out of default mode, but I'm actually oh yeah, when I do that, that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I'm scared of this. And what if I actually don't need to be scared of that? And what if I can just kind of show up and shine and not have all those tapes playing that are often holding me back and criticizing myself and criticizing others. So in my opinion, I love it so much because it really calls you to personal growth. And it says that where Crystal needs to grow will look different than how somebody else needs to grow, and so, but that's it's a kind of more of a personalized, customized spiritual growth plan in a way.
Yeah, it is. It's so good. And we'll talk when we have our event all about just God. I mean, the Enneagram has meant so much to me personally, just to understand my type. And it
life
is
changing.
It is. And it's for me, it's right on. The person that the way that I show up in stress is so ugly. And
for all of us.
I mean, there's
not a number. There's not a type that's pretty when we're under stress.
I think for me though, it's been that I have a false eyelash falling. For me, it's been like that I've always been so proud of this fun, outgoing, adventuresome person that I am. And so to realize that like, oh, when I'm in stress, like I really behave like that, and it's really not pretty. And also, where does that come from in me? It's not necessarily all just because life is fun and I've never had any pain. It's like what I have chosen to do with the pain or avoid the pain. And so it's just been, man, it's been good. Like you said, it's not necessarily just all butterflies and roses. It's like a little digging in, but it's so freeing. It's just so freeing. It gives you all of the power. Like you get the power when you understand it. So
yeah, one of my Enneagram authors that I love reading, he says, so many people are afraid of taking the Enneagram or other personality tests because they don't want to be put in a box.
Yes.
And they kind of resist this idea that they're like other people. And he just says, you're not being put in a box. It's just helping you name the box you already live in.
Yes.
And helping you actually take the lid off the box and letting you become more than that box. And I think that's so true because we all kind of create an identity or a personality that we just kind of think is us. And when you actually start realizing the Enneagram helps us realize what motivates each of our types. We're kind of grouped together by what motivates us. Like in other words, what we're most afraid of and what we like most desire. And when you kind of name that, it's so, so, so powerful to really realize how much that drives everything and really looking at that does. And the powerful thing really about it all is that we're all doing it to try to be lovable, to try to be worth something, to be accepted, right? And so if you can kind of get to a place that says, I don't have to be right in order to be loved. I don't have to be serving in order to be loved. I don't have to be happy and positive to be loved. I don't have to be successful to be loved. Like the thing that we each think we need, we don't need. And we can look at each other's and say that. We can say to you easily, like, I would love you absolutely if you weren't all fun and happy and positive. But then the one we choose, we're like, but mine, like I have to have this, right? So we put armor on. And so I think that's one of the really beautiful things is if we can just show up with more compassion for ourselves and more compassion for each other. And we'll look at what I think our friendship superpower is. So this is not going to be kind of like a deep dive in all things Enneagram,
right?
But it's using the Enneagram as a lens to kind of look at who we each are and how we can be better friends to each other and to ourselves through the lens of the Enneagram.
Yeah, which I really love that. I love the whole superpower in your friendship thing. I think is so good. Okay, so I think let's talk about, I'm going to wrap 3 questions in one here.
Go for it.
Because we could talk all day. So you can just kind of pick one. But we are here in quarantine. You told me before the call in San Francisco, you're going to be quarantined until the end of May. And we at least until the middle of May and probably June before we can start gathering it all again. So what is it for you? Like the questions that I had, and maybe you just pick one of it. It's like, what, if you have a favorite unexpected experience that brought you joy or was good for you, like how you're handling the fear and cultivating courage, and, or where are you finding joy? Like what's bringing you joy? So of all of those, I think it's just about this time, like what's standing out for you, positive or negative?
Yeah, well, the thing that popped out for me, just in maybe in light of our conversation about friendship and stuff too, is I have a group of girlfriends that I have known for, 17 or 18 years. And I would call them some of my dearest, bestest friends. They have Frientimacy with me, but we all live all around the country. And so we always have an annual girls weekend. And these are the girls I'm just completely vulnerable in front of. We all know each other so, so, so well. But then we see each other when I travel and speak. I'll visit them if I see them. But, we're mostly a relationship centered around one weekend a year. We've started kind of implementing every couple months doing a Zoom call or something like that, just to kind of help not have a whole year pass or whatever. But this quarantine, we decided, we were the first Sunday in, we were like, let's all connect and let's just touch base. And we were like, somebody said, can we do this next week? And we were like, sure. And so every single Sunday since then, we've been doing this. And I wouldn't have told you that our friendships could go that much deeper because we tell each other everything. I mean, these are women who I would say are near and dear. but to increase that consistency. And we had consistency in that we always had a year to, I mean, we had consistency, but we've increased the frequency of that consistency. And it has like become such a special thing in our friendships. We're on Marco Polo almost daily now, and we're on Zoom every Sunday. And my husband is like, why do you even need to be on Zoom this week? You guys have Marco Poloed updates every single day, you know? And I'm like, and then yet we get on Zoom and we talk for 2 more hours, you know? And I was like, we're sharing things that if in real time, that otherwise we would have just a month or from now, like updated each other on. And there's something so different from updating each other on and telling each other what it was like, as opposed to going through it with each other in a honest, vulnerable, frequent way. And so, yeah, one of the upsides is that it's brought some more consistency, some more intention to certain relationships that have been really, really, really meaningful.
That is so good. So good. I totally resonate with that in some of my own relationships. I like founder of Marco Polo. If you're listening, this is obviously your year. This has been amazing. Such a gift. You know, we built an app when you first came to our event. I spent all of 2013 building it, a friendship app that is still in storage. We're going to bring it back someday. But that was one of the things that I always thought is if there was a way to do a not required, but a way to do like a video component where people could leave messages, and I've always sort of avoided Marco Polo because I feel like it can be like this endless well of, you know, never ending conversation. But I love that you can go catch up whenever you want, and you can catch up on 2 times speed and laugh hysterically. And it's just been fun. Like it's just been an amazing tool. So I love hearing that that's working for others also in your whole group. That's so cool.
I would say what it does too is it helps you connect when you have the energy to do it. So you're in a part of a conversation, but like a Zoom, you all have to be on at the same time. Whereas this, you can like come in and out of the conversation and be like, I don't have time or I don't have the bandwidth today, but tomorrow morning I do. And so it allows you to kind of, show up when you want to show up, but which is such a vulnerable thing. You know, it helps you be seen when it matters most to you. So
it's so good. That's just beautiful. That's so good. They should record that for a Marco Polo commercial.
I met the couple that started at Marco Polo just a week before we all went into quarantine. Super, super sweet couple. They are, and they have kids at home, and they're just like super down to earth, amazing couple. So.
Are they in San Francisco?
They are.
That's so cool.
I met them at a conference, and I was like, "Look at you, good job!" But of course, that was a week before we actually all really, really needed them. So.
That's amazing, though. I love hearing that it was started by a couple. I don't know anything about it, so that's awesome.
Well, and I just have to circle back around to how you opened this conversation up, Crystal, and just say how when I met you, I remember you called me. I think you were working on the app, and you were like, had this dream, and you were just wanting to talk to somebody about friendship for your app. And I've done so many of those phone calls, and I can tell you without fail how few people actually end up creating the dream that they had. And I remember you on that call, you were like, and then I want to have a big conference and I want to have you out. And I mean, I don't know the length of time, but it was, I mean, you did it. Like, I was just amazed how many people will say something like that. And very few of us actually do what we need to do to make that happen. And you're somebody who from the beginning, I was just like, wow, this girl is like, when she says she's going to do something, she does it. And it's, you've given a gift to so many of us, providing that consistency, that positivity, and that vulnerability. You're bonding people and helping create that relationship with each other and with you. And you've been doing it so beautifully. So thank you. You're a joy to watch.
Thank you, Shasta. You've been such an encouragement the entire time. So that said, the way I want to leave is, I know, and we haven't talked a lot about what this quarantine has been like for you personally, but I know, being a speaker and an author who's about to launch a book, that this has completely rocked your world and your business model, to say the least. The way that you bring in an income is being in front of audiences and speaking. And you're, in the middle of launching a book, which would normally mean a book tour. So tell us, how can we want your work to continue. I want your work to continue. And I know that the people who are watching this want your work to continue. How can we support you? What can we do to cheer you on and support your business?
You. Yeah. I know it was devastating to just watch all these events get canceled off the calendar, and you're just like, oh, I want to be with these people. It is very, very heartbreaking. And on the other hand, on the upside, we have never noticed our loneliness and talked about it more and felt less shame talking about it.
Yeah,
it's a really beautiful thing. And so there's a part of me that's just like, I'm trying to just practice holding the grief and recognizing the gratitude in that. And trusting that there will be new business models and new ways to do this. But thank you. That's a beautiful question. I mean, the smallest thing that anyone can do is go pre-order the book, The Business of Friendship. Even if you're like, I'm not in a business position. If you know somebody who works, just please, pre-ordering the book means so much as an author, and it is on Amazon. So you can pre-order the book.
And we can do that today on Amazon.
You can do that today. Yeah,
The Business of Friendship by Shasta Nelson.
And this is the first place I'm announcing it. I haven't even put the link out anywhere. So you'll be the first ones.
Yay! Good.
And if anybody's in a position that knows companies that are looking for virtual team building, facilitating, training. I've been coming in and doing some teams with just kind of being able to help. I can do breakout rooms and help teach and help kind of do connecting and like an offsite.
Yes.
So all offsite and offsite virtually. Stuff like that, or just being able to, any conferences that are still going on virtual or anything like that, I would be thrilled to do now, or especially in the fall, like when the book comes out. If anybody has any fun ideas of ways to get the book out, or certain audiences or companies that you think would be interested, I would just love help in thinking that through and brainstorming and dreaming up new ideas.
Awesome. Well, so if they have ideas, where should they, on your website, is there a contact form, shastanelson.com?
There is.
Okay.
Yep. That would be awesome. All
right. Well, thank you so much, Shasta.
You're so welcome.
I'm so grateful for you and for this time.
Well, and we're all lucky that you made the transition in your business to think of how you can continue to be of service. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a thing.
It has for all of us, huh?
Okay. Well, I will see you on May 7th at Grace and Gratitude, and everyone else will be buying your book. Okay. Bye, Shasta. Thank you.
Bye.